initially presented it here and at Boston Indies, and it's an iPhone 3D physics-based spelling game. And now we have an updated iPad version. I didn't know the sound came for free. So this is actually an editor. And this is the iPhone version. I'm going to use Unity Remote just to control it because it uses accelerometer. We do have a Brass Monkey version that's not updated with the newest build, so this one kind of looks better. So this is your main screen. It's set up to be the iPad. Hopefully this works. I'm just going to use the mouse for this part. But you have different spelling lists, and you can program all your spelling lists. So like, if you go back real fast, we have a list editor. So it comes with a bunch of lists, and you can add your own. I can't actually enter text in the editor mode right now. But you can add your list, rename them, add words, all that. And we also have a level editor where it comes with pre-made levels, but you can also just select areas and add pieces and manipulate them, select between a bunch. Our next iteration is actually going to be kind of like Chris's balls program, where it's third person through this, but there's also going to be customizable pieces that people can download content and add content. So let's go back. So if you just hit play, you choose a list, you choose a map, and you hit play. And so this actually is working. And it is. So actually on the Brass Monkey version, your iPhone will be controlling this as well. So you just go around. So basically some of the differences from the other one is we have a tail, we have some particle effects when you hit, different lighting. I suck at my own game. It's also, part of the lag is with Unity Remote right now. But in another iteration, we actually, it wouldn't really work for the iPhone as much, but we want to make this a third person. We actually are kind of excited to try to get this in with, it's painful to watch. I didn't get that one, because I'm not really paying attention. All right. I love you. Yeah. So anyway, go through the list. And where is, in order to show you a little bit about what this is like, I'll just show you the game real quick. Work. All right. So this is a game, and it takes about a minute, and it just cycles through. But just so you see what it is that we did, and we started out in a visual novel engine, and this, what I'm about to explain, is how I found a way to bring it over to Unity. So you are Matilda the cat, this is your cat, you're a Jen, but sometimes it doesn't get you. For example, right now, it's food time, there's no food in the bowl. You go to her, tell her what's up, and she greets you. All right, and we're also using voices, and I say, oh, please get the foods, I starve.
Oh, no, you had a bad day?
All right. So
Matilda, what are you doing? You know you're in the way. Ah! John, we need to trim Matilda's claws.
Okay, so that's real quick. It's the one ending right there. Oh, you get snatched up, you struggle, you get your claws clipped. Okay, so then you can start back over again. It starts back to the original first choice. That's just to give you a real quick idea. And that was one little small branch and one of a few different endings that you can achieve. Sometimes you get the food, sometimes you don't, but it's a dramatic situation because you're attempting a goal, you're either getting it or you don't. Now we made this originally in RenPy, which is a visual novel engine. But the next step after playing around and making this game in RenPy was to go much more complex and to create a sci-fi fantasy sort of slightly role-playing, slightly adventure-ish, but still just focused on conversation. And it became very quickly apparent that it would be too complex just to make in a visual novel engine. So we decided to step back and port this into Unity. Now, what we came up with, thanks to Alex and Yilmaz, is rather than setting up a canvas on which you're putting backgrounds and characters and the GUI, we are using a 3D world right here, in which case every one of those slides and backgrounds, the camera right here is bouncing and moving based on your decisions, based on you click an option and the camera will jump from here to here, and this is all laid out in a sort of 3D plane. So you can, meanwhile you can move see character images, and the text will follow the camera and the conversations stay on the camera. Now when it came to doing a conversation, I happened to run into a guy named Brett Cantor, and this is now, I participated in the beta, and this was made during the beta, but it's now out on the asset store. It's called Conversation Engine, and I'll hopefully have, at the end of this, have a little bit of time to show you how updated it's become. But we got to work quickly using Playmaker and Conversation Engine to show you, to create those branches and to create the, is there a reason why this isn't moving, Alex? Okay, I think I can go on. And this right here is the conversation editor. Right there. So these are the nodes of the conversation. So at the very beginning you start out and it's saying, you are Matilda the cat. And as you're clicking through, this is a listen for key, so it's waiting for you to click and advancing. This is one conversation, and this would be the exposition conversation. So the conversation is an object. You get to the first choice point, and you have a branch where she says, hey there, Matilda, how was your day? And you therefore have 3 different choices, this, this, or this. And each of these choices is moving to the other nodes. Now he's cleaned this up quite a bit. This is an earlier version of the engine. This is in beta. So you choose 1, it'll go to 1, choose 2, it'll go to 2, 3, it'll go to 3. In the meanwhile, if you recall, hey there Matilda, how was your day, was a sound file. And that's pretty much as simple as me taking a sound file and just dropping it right there. That's the start sound file. So you can line up voice acting right along with each individual moment of a conversation. Likewise, actually, you can, through camera settings, choose to alter the point of view of the camera. Now, if this is just in a plain, flat sort of 2D, the camera is looking at a flat background with a flat image. If this were a 3-dimensional, third person, for example, perspective conversation, like what you see in Mass Effect, for example, where you see Shepard and you see the other person and the camera's cutting around, you could, in Conversation Engine, either maintain last view or choose your camera position based on where you want to jump or move the camera at that point in a conversation. The way that this also the way that I was able to do this without doing any code whatsoever, hold on. Let's see.
About 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes, cool. Is through Playmaker. Now Playmaker is a finite state machine editor. And what this enables is, without using or writing any code, you can set up states. For example, the first choice conversation, and then based on those choices, call events. So for example, so at the very beginning, when you start the game, it's idle. All right? And we're going to get right up to the first, and this is the finite state machine that is attached to the first conversation, first choice conversation. And when you get to that spot,
Hey there, Matilda, how was your day?
again, first conversation that's been called from a different conversation, comes to here, and if I choose A, what we're going to see is we're going to see it bounce from there to there. So,
Oh no, you had a bad day?
so what that's doing is it's sending information, or calling out to the conversation server, and then beginning a second conversation, and it's bouncing from conversation to conversation. Okay. Now, when it comes to editing a conversation, again, this is an older version, and But if you wanted, these are the different types of elements, and the newer version sets all these up on the right.
But basically, in the past, I've mostly shown tech demo-y stuff. But this past spring, we were actually working on trying to do cool gameplay prototypes of soft body physics. If you don't really know what soft body physics is, these demos should enlighten you. But yeah, this should be quick, but I'll just jump right into it. That's interesting.
Oh yeah. I do windowed.
Okay, I'm going to do windowed. All right, so basically what we wanted to do here was a game which relied on soft body physics as one of its core mechanics. So when you have normal rigid body physics, the physics objects you have can move around and they can rotate. But if you want them to do cool things like stretching, twisting, bending, tearing, then you need some representation of soft body physics. So what we decided to do here is we made you a little dude who's in a house. Here you're in a kitchen. And your goal, you're traveling through vents and drains and things like that to get through this house. So I want to get to the kitchen sink. So my primary way of interacting with the environment is I have a squishification gun. So you'll notice that there's a reticule in the center of the screen. And if I shoot at things, I can squishify them. So like this is really high for a little dude like me on top of this refrigerator, so I want a nice easy way down, so maybe I can jump onto this pan, zap it, stretch down a little bit, zap that chair for fun. Yeah, and there's not a lot of visual feedback here, but right now I'm zapping things and then freezing them back in place. So I want to get to that sink. So what can I do? I notice there's a shelf up here, maybe I can zap the shelf. Some coffee pots fall down. And I can climb these guys, maybe. Sometimes you get unlucky. It's not perfect. Yes. And enter the sink, and go to stage 2, which, as of today, I noticed it has a horrible bug where sometimes it doesn't load stage 2 right, but give me a couple of chances to reset it. There we go. So yeah, basically the same idea here. Just you are squishifying the environment by making things soft and then using it to solve navigational puzzles. And yeah, that's basically the core idea of this. We just wanted to see if we could make the soft body physics work in a way really tied to the gameplay. So that's what we came up with. And going back to tech demos, there is a feature I added to the soft body physics that's not showcased there. If you were really squeamish, I'm sorry. But here we have a Maya stock model named Jackie. Say hello, Jackie. Hello. Oh, there goes your arm. So the soft body physics system I had, yeah, he doesn't have a skeleton inside him or anything. He is just a completely soft body, and if I do it right, I can rip his face off. It's usually fun. There it goes. So yeah, this is just generating the interior surfaces automatically. You can rip it apart. Yeah, that's another feature that this soft body physics system has. So we're jumping through some of the licensing and legal hurdles right now, but ideally we should be getting this onto the asset store pretty soon. It's a pain because I developed it as a student and a bunch of things like that, but hopefully it'll be up there for everyone to use. So that's about all I've got. Thanks.
Weapons, you can equip them in the slots, and again, I can't show the editor, but that's another thing that you can define. Yes, fortunately I also can't get myself money.
Oh, you have to earn the money this time.
Yeah, you do, unfortunately.
You're an honest man.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, but I can,
Right, so you can, it sorts the weapons by class automatically. A lot of this is honored, so you wouldn't have to place any of this. The classes are things you can set up.
That's good. I can see this. Yeah, so it'll basically equip them based on that. It's a way to manage it. There's also an upgrades system. Why is it running so slow? So I can basically buy upgrades, and the upgrades are actually very customizable. They're made of individual components for anything that you want to modify. So just as an example, I think I made this semi-automatic. I also added a secondary weapon here.
Right. So basically, with this upgrade system, you can pretty easily write these tiny little scripts or use a whole bunch that we have to define ways you can change the behavior of the weapon completely. It could be changing the material, it could be adding something like a scope that actually changes the model. You know, basically, it can do absolutely anything to modify these weapons. And of course, you can set up you know, exclusive things. You can't have two different types of scopes. If you pick one, you can't equip the other at the same time.
And the main idea of it is that if you don't want to, there's not a lot of work required to put it in. Basically, you define the weapons and you put a single script on them to describe them, and then the store will actually find them on start and populate the store with them. And the same goes for all of the upgrades.
Right. So it's pretty automated. Is the whole idea is that you know it's simple to set up and get running, and that combined with the FPS package can mean you're one step closer to having a full game.
So if you want to actually just go to the 1.0, I don't really know, we don't have a great demo for the spawn control, but I'll touch on that at the very end.
Yeah.
So the main thing though we're trying to show,
This is already out, and you know this is something that ties into the version of the FPS package that we have out already. But what we're mainly working on is a 1.0 release of this package, and it's a big release. Basically, what we had with this was something that we'd started as a hobby doing these things, and we made these scripts, and we found that we thought maybe they'd be useful, so we released them for free, and a lot of people downloaded them. So what we're really trying to do now is take what we had before and make it so you can make a professional game. So what with sort of what you've seen here in the older stuff, you can make a cool game and save you a lot of time. But there were
okay. Hi. How's it going? I'm Yilmaz. I'm gonna. What am I talking about?
you said you'd make it up when you got up there.
Okay. All right. Let's go. I'm gonna talk about reflection, and it's not the graphics kind of reflection. This is the DLL taking apart kind of reflection. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of carnage and mayhem and Unity crashing a lot. So I think with Unity 3.2, they came out with the Unity Asset Store. I don't know if that's exactly right, but around that time I was experimenting with opening up the DLLs that power the scripting in Unity, and then just looking at their innards, what they're like. And when they released the Asset Store, I did a diff between the assemblies and noticed there was something called WebView, and realized that they added the WebKit framework to the Unity project, the editor. So when we go to, oh, I don't actually have the whole view here. Here we go. When we go to the Asset Store, it's basically just rendering a web page using WebKit. So I thought it would be really fun to try and make a web browser inside of Unity. So you never have to exit Unity. Don't even have to Alt-Tab. That's my dream, is to be able to never leave Unity. Like, make Photoshop in Unity and make a web browser in Unity and then just stay there. It's like a playground more than a game engine. So, how are we going to do this? You guys know that Unity comes with mono develop, which has its pluses and minuses. But if you open up a project in MonoDevelop, you will see under references that there are two DLLs. One is Unity Editor DLL, one is Unity Engine DLL, and when you double click one of them, you can actually go in and see all the classes that are implemented in these DLL files. And you can even change the visibility to show you private classes that you're not supposed to see. For example, let's find a juicy one. Well, I don't know. Render arguments? I have no idea what that is. Camera lights, mesh tree distance, billboard tree distance, crossfade length, etc., etc. We have set up coroutine. We can learn about how coroutines are set up. So we can be like, all right, let's see what this does. And you get a decompiled version of the scope, so you can look at its innards. But there's some stuff that you can't look into, which I'm going to try to find an example of. Here we go. You get an abstract method, which honestly I don't know too much about how this stuff works. but I think it means that it's implemented in some other place, like the executable or some other assembly. So, you know, with things like this, if you want to know how create instance work, well, tough luck, you probably can't figure it out. But with a lot of other stuff, you can. So we're interested in looking at how the asset store window works. So right now we're in the Unity engine DLL. Where we want to go is the Unity editor DLL. So let's take a look at that. Is anyone having problems hearing me, by the way? No? Okay, great. Okay, so let's find asset store window. Anyone see it? I don't see it. Interesting. Asset store window. Here it is. Interesting. Okay, it's a Unity editor internal, but this is asset store. I want asset store window, which for some reason isn't coming up. Let me try this one more time. Well, screw that. So the point I was going to get to is that monodevelop isn't good enough for your reflection needs anyways. So let's dump monodevelop and go to our good friend Reflector, which has a trial version, I believe, that you can download. I think that's what I'm using. Certainly didn't buy it. I didn't pirate it. Seriously, there's this trial version, honestly. But let's look for asset store window. We're in Unity engine. We want to go to Unity editor. Here we go, asset store window. Okay, asset store window is an editor window, and ICANN has custom menu, which is one of the funnier interface names that they have in the DLLs for Unity. Seriously, like that's I think what the Aras from the graphics programming Unity named it. Anyways, now we got to figure out how this thing gets instantiated so we can copy it and create our own web view. It's probably the init function, right? And that's where it creates the editor window through get window and sets a bunch of things. So we want to take most of, like we want to just steal most of the code and throw away the stuff we don't need. So let's go ahead and implement our version of this in Unity. Let's make a C# script in the editor folder, call it something funny like unibrowse. Wait, no? Yeah, sure, why not? Unibrowse, okay, it's going to be an editor window. And since this is an editor script, we got to put in, use this Unity editor. Let me see if I can bump up the text size on this guy. That's better. Okay, well we're going to need our own init function, so public static void init, and then we've got to create a menu item for this so we can invoke it. Tools, unibrowse, and then I always love putting key command shortcuts for my editor tools. I can just invoke them without having to use the mouse or the trackpad. So I can never remember this off the top of my head, but I wrote another script that does it, so I'm just going to copy it from there and then change the key. So here we go. Make it W. So that's Command-Shift-W or Control-Shift-W if you're on Windows. Now what we got to do is say, actually, you know, I want to make this U a capital. It's bothering me. Okay. Unibrowse equals that. See, sometimes I don't get autocomplete and it bugs me, but it should be get window with rect. Something like that. Okay, and then we're gonna, this is the init function to actually bring up the editor window, then we're going to do our own inits in there, so just call it initialize. Okay, let's see if Unity compiles, and I'll try to get the auto completion working by simply making it regenerate the project file. How many minutes have I spent? Might be
about 5.
5? Okay. Okay, we got our autocomplete back. Yay, monodevelop. Alright, so we see that, okay, with get window, we got our window. We should be able to test this now, actually, that it comes up. Null reference exception. Because there is no script with that.
You changed the capital, yeah.
Thank you. I was getting to that, jeez. Okay. There's our window, 800 by 600.